The truth about Brendon Batson has finally revealed itself after decades of silence. If you clicked on this video, you already know something wasn't quite right about the story we've been told. What really happened to the man who made history but paid the price in ways no one talked about? What did he endure that's only now coming to light? Brendon Batson was born in Grenada in 1953. At 9 years old, he joined the Windrush generation and moved to England in 1962. To reunite with his mother. But unlike other Caribbean families who settled in places like Brixton or Notting Hill, Batson's family ended up in Tilbury, Essex. It was a dock town, industrial and cold, and his family was the only black family there. There were no other Caribbean families, no support network, no familiar faces, just isolation. The shock hit him straight away at school. Within his first few days at junior school, another child called him a chocolate drop. He didn't even understand what it meant at first. He'd grown up in the Caribbean where being black was normal. But in Tilbury, it made him a target. The playground became a battleground. He took beatings. He learned to fight. His mum told him to meet it head on, so he did. He fought until he was well into his teens just to survive. But the racism wasn't just from other children. It came from the top too. After missing lessons to play football, Batson was pulled into the headmaster's office. The headmaster didn't just tell him off for skipping class. He told him something far worse. He said Batson would never make it as a footballer because there was nobody like him. It wasn't advice. It was a threat. It was the system telling him he didn't belong. And it wasn't just white people telling him to give up. Black parents in the community were doing it too. Batson's own mother had migrated to work hard in low-paid jobs. His brother was an electrician who faced discrimination at work every single day. These parents had seen how brutal Britain could be. They didn't trust football. They thought it was risky, unstable, and a place where black boys would be chewed up and spat out. They wanted their sons to get real trades, safe jobs. So when young black players were offered apprenticeships at football clubs, their parents often said no. Batson's pursuit of football wasn't just rebellion against white authority. It was rebellion against his own community's fear. Despite all of this, Batson's talent got him noticed. Arsenal signed him as a schoolboy. He worked his way through the youth ranks and eventually made his first team debut against Newcastle United in March 1972. He became Arsenal's first ever black player. But here's the thing, nobody celebrated it. There were no headlines, no interviews, no recognition at all. Batson himself didn't even know he'd made history until the 1990s, when someone introduced him as Arsenal's first black player at an anti-racism event. He was shocked. It had never occurred to him that it mattered. He was just trying to survive in a ruthless industry. He made history in complete silence, with no narrative to support him. But while he was making history, his body was already breaking down. As a teenager at Arsenal, Batson tore the cartilage in his right knee. Back in the early 1970s, the treatment for torn cartilage was brutal. Doctors would often just remove the cartilage entirely. They didn't understand that cartilage protects the joint. Without it, the bones grind together. Arthritis sets in fast. For a footballer whose knees take constant impact, removing cartilage is a death sentence. Batson's knee was destroyed before his career even began. Every match after that was played on borrowed time. In 1974, Batson left Arsenal and joined Cambridge United in the 4th Division. He wanted regular football, but what he got was something far worse. The 4th Division grounds were small and cramped. The fans were right on top of the pitch. You could hear every single word they shouted, and they shouted the most vile things imaginable. Monkey noises, racial slurs. All of it aimed directly at him while he tried to play. One incident at Bradford City stood out. Batson went to take a throw-in near the touchline. A fan charged down from the terrace and screamed the N-word right in his face. Batson was distraught. He wanted to jump into the crowd and confront the man. But his assistant manager physically held him back. This was the reality of being a black footballer in the 1970s. You had to take the abuse. You had to swallow it. You had to keep playing. But something good did come from Cambridge. Batson met Ron Atkinson, a rookie manager with big ambition and infectious energy. Atkinson saw something in Batson that others didn't. He made him captain. In an era where black players were seen as physically gifted but mentally weak, appointing a black captain was radical. And Batson proved everyone wrong. Under his captaincy, Cambridge won the 4th Division title in 1977. He wasn't just a player, he was a leader. Ron Atkinson became his mentor. A bond formed between them. Trust was built. It felt unbreakable. In 1978, Atkinson moved to West Bromwich Albion in the 1st Division and immediately brought Batson with him. At West Brom, Batson joined 2 other black players who were already there. Laurie Cunningham, an elegant winger with incredible skill, and Cyril Regis, a powerful striker who terrified defenders. The media called them the 3 Degrees, named after a famous American soul group. It was catchy, it made headlines, but it also made them targets. Suddenly, Batson and his teammates were hyper-visible. People stared at them not because they were West Brom players, but because they were 3 black lads playing together. The attention brought fame, but it also brought hate. The National Front was active in the Nineteen Sivanis, recruiting outside football grounds. Racist groups saw the 3 Degrees as a threat. Cyril Regis received a bullet in the mail with a note threatening to shoot his knees if he played for England at Wembley. The abuse in stadiums was constant. Monkey chants echoed around every ground they visited. But inside the squad, race didn't matter as much. Batson later reflected that football was kinder to black players than other industries. His brother, an electrician, faced worse discrimination at work than Batson ever did on the pitch. Being a footballer gave Batson a platform and some protection, even if it exposed him to public hatred. The defining moment came on 30th of December 1978. West Brom travelled to Old Trafford to face Manchester United. The pitch was covered in snow. The crowd was 45,000 strong, mostly United fans, and they were hostile. They booed the 3 Degrees. They hurled racist abuse. The commentator, Gerald Sinstadt, even mentioned the booing on live television, which was rare for the time. The atmosphere was toxic. West Brom didn't just survive. They destroyed United. They won 5-3 in one of the greatest games of that era. Cunningham glided over the snow like a ghost. Regis was unstoppable. Batson anchored the defence and kept United at bay. They didn't just win. They silenced the racists with pure brilliance. It was a seminal moment for black players in England. It proved they could handle the pressure, the cold, the abuse, and still dominate. In May 1979, something bizarre happened. A testimonial match was organised for West Brom player Len Cantello. The match was billed as Whites versus Blacks, a team of white players against a team of black players. Today, the idea is unthinkable, but back then, it happened. For the white players, it was a light-hearted gimmick. For the black players, it was something far more serious. They had to win. Losing wasn't an option. It would have been seen as proof that black players weren't good enough. Batson played in that match alongside Regis and Cunningham. The black team won. It was symbolic. It was important. But it also revealed something troubling. Batson hadn't realised how many black players were actually playing in England at the time. He said they could have fielded 2 full teams. These players existed, but they were scattered across the lower leagues, invisible to the wider public. The match also introduced Vernon Hodgson, dubbed the 4th Degree. He played that day, but never secured a long-term career in football. He ended up working as a refuse collector in West Bromwich. For every Batson who broke through, there were talented black players like Hodgson who fell through the cracks. The weight of visibility pressed down on Batson constantly during this period. Every match felt like a test, not just of his ability, but of his entire race. When he made a mistake, it wasn't just Brendon Batson failing. It felt like proof to the racists that black players didn't belong. Pressure was suffocating. He couldn't just be good. He had to be perfect. And even when he was perfect, like at Old Trafford, the abuse didn't stop, it just changed form. Success brought jealousy. Jealousy brought more hate. Off the pitch, things weren't much better. Batson and his teammates received death threats regularly. Not just vague intimidation, but specific, detailed threats. Letters describing how they'd be attacked, where they'd be ambushed. The bullet sent to Regis wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a campaign of terror designed to drive black players out of the game. The police offered little protection. The FA offered even less. The players were left to fend for themselves. They had to show up, perform under extreme pressure, absorb the hatred, and then do it all again the following week. The mental toll was immense, but they had no choice. Walking away would have meant giving the racists exactly what they wanted. But by the early 1980s, Batson's body finally gave up. The knee injury from his teenage years had been getting worse. The cartilage damage had caused progressive arthritis. The pain became unbearable. In 1982, at just 29 years old, Batson was forced to retire. Modern medicine might have saved him. Transplants, surgery, stem cell therapy. But none of that existed back then. His career was over. Retiring at 29 is devastating for any athlete. Batson was in his prime, playing for a top club, with years of earning potential ahead of him. The sudden end left a void. But unlike many retired players who drifted into depression or addiction, Batson had a lifeline. He'd been a PFA delegate during his playing days, and in 1984 he was appointed Deputy Chief Executive of the PFA. He transitioned from the pitch to policy. But the grief of his unfulfilled playing years never fully left him. As Deputy CEO of the PFA from 1984 to 2002, Batson became the architect of anti-racism efforts in English football. He knew that just telling black players to be tough wasn't enough. The system had to change. In 1993, he played a pivotal role in launching Let's Kick Racism Out of Football, which later became Kick It Out. He lobbied for legal changes to make racist chanting a criminal offence. This was huge. It moved racism from being a social annoyance to an actual crime. It gave decent fans the power to police their own stands. But even as Batson worked to fix the system, he couldn't fix what it had already done to him. His playing career had been stolen by bad medicine. His body had been sacrificed. While other players his age were still competing at the highest level, Batson was stuck in an office, watching from the sidelines. The what-ifs haunted him. What if his knee had been treated properly? What if modern surgery had existed in the 1970s? Could he have played into his 30s like others did? Could he have won trophies? Represented England? The forced retirement at 29 wasn't just the end of his career, it was the theft of his potential, and no amount of administrative success could replace what had been taken from him. He'd made peace with it, but the grief lingered. Every match he watched, every young player he helped, reminded him of what he'd lost. Later, Batson turned his attention to coaching and management. He noticed that while black players were now common, black managers were virtually non-existent. He became a vocal advocate for the Rooney Rule, which required clubs to interview minority candidates for coaching roles. He challenged the lazy idea that football was a meritocracy. The numbers didn't lie. There was exclusion happening at the top level. Batson pushed for bursaries to help black players get their coaching badges. His work in this area remains unfinished, but he was one of the first to call it out. But then came the betrayal. On 21st April 2004, Ron Atkinson was broadcasting for a Middle Eastern network. After a Chelsea match, he thought his microphone was off. It wasn't. He described Chelsea defender Marcel Desailly using the N-word, calling him lazy and thick. The clip went public. Atkinson's career collapsed overnight. For Batson, this wasn't just racism from a stranger. This was the man who had been his mentor, the man who made him captain at Cambridge, the man who brought him to West Brom and stood beside him during the 3 Degrees era. Hearing Ron use that word, the same word that had been screamed in Batson's face at Bradford, was shattering. Batson said he was deeply hurt. He asked, "How could you, Ron?" It forced him to rethink everything. Had Ron always seen him as lesser? Had their entire friendship been a lie? Batson admitted it took him a long time to forgive Ron. The reconciliation didn't come from a public apology. It came from something far more personal. When Batson's wife, Cecily, fell gravely ill, Ron Atkinson was the first person from the football world to call him. That gesture, that human connection in the face of death, allowed Batson to soften. He said that after what his wife went through, what Ron said seemed insignificant. But even though he forgave him, Batson admitted the scar remains. There will always be a part of him that thinks, "How could you?" And then the losses kept coming. Laurie Cunningham died in a car crash in Madrid in 1989. He was only 33. Cyril Regis died of a heart attack in 2018 at 59. Batson's wife, Cecily, also passed away. Batson became the sole survivor of the 3 degrees. He was left alone to carry their story. The grief was unbearable. Regis turned to religion after Cunningham's death, becoming a born-again Christian. Batson didn't have that. He relied on the same stoic resilience that got him through the 4th Division abuse. He channeled his grief into memorialisation. In 2019, Batson was the driving force behind the 3 degrees statue unveiled in West Bromwich. By cementing their image in bronze, he made sure they would never be invisible again. Brendon Batson is now over 70 years old. He's the last man standing from an era that tried to break him. His knees were destroyed by outdated surgery. His mentor betrayed him with a racial slur. His closest friends died young. His wife is gone. And for decades, he carried all of this in silence. But now, finally, he's opened up. He's told the truth about what it cost to be a pioneer. He made history, but history demanded everything from him. And the saddest part? Even after all the pain, all the sacrifice, all the barriers he broke, Batson never got the recognition he deserved until it was almost too late. He changed English football forever, but the cost was brutal, and only now, at over 70, is the world finally listening.